Have you ever noticed how mornings can set the tone for your entire day? While many start the day rushing, already drowning in worries and tasks, there's a secret that can completely change this dynamic. And no, it's not a stronger cup of coffee or a more organized schedule. The true transformation begins with something much deeper, a morning prayer that attracts positive energy. That's right, starting the day with spirituality can open doors to protection, spiritual renewal, and a wave of gratitude that stays with you until the end of the day. It may seem too simple, but this practice is powerful, and few understand its real impact. The morning prayer begins with a sincere uplifting of God's name, recognizing His incomparable greatness. It's like when you wake up, and the first ray of sunlight shines through your window, you feel the spiritual energy that renews everything around you. This moment of gratitude, even in simple things, deepens your connection. Picture yourself starting the day with a prayer that exudes positivity, filling your spirit with strength and protection. This is the kind of energy that turns the ordinary into something extraordinary. Praising the Lord is like planting a seed of gratitude in the soil of the soul. By acknowledging His mercy, you realize how the simple act of giving thanks changes your outlook on challenges. The words flow from your mouth with confidence, and each expression becomes a current of spiritual renewal, filling your life with purpose. It's like pausing for a moment to feel the wind on your face, reminding you that there's something greater always by your side. Worship is also a powerful reminder that no matter the storms that may come, there's a source of spiritual energy sustaining you. When you acknowledge this higher power, you place your faith in something eternal and unchanging. Think of that day when everything seemed to go wrong, but in the end, a prayer helped you see the positive side. That's how daily praise protects you, making you feel anchored and safe. More than words, praising God is a daily spiritual renewal exercise. The act of elevating His name transforms your emotions and prepares you for the day ahead. If you're seeking more gratitude, start your morning with a prayer of praise, and you'll notice the difference throughout the day. Recognizing that everything is in harmony, even when human eyes can't see it, is the first step to finding this inner peace. And now, when we think of God's greatness, we also reflect on what comes next. After all, praising the Lord is just the beginning of a journey of faith. With each word of worship, the spirit rises, and soon the question arises, how can we trust more in His plan, even when we don't understand everything? Trusting in God's sovereignty is an act of faith that requires courage. Many times, we don't understand the details of His divine plan, but that's exactly where faith comes into play. Imagine facing a situation that seems unsolvable, perhaps a project that won't move forward or a relationship going through turbulence. Trusting in God is like a lighthouse that, even in the fog, safely guides your steps. When you place your trust in something greater, you free yourself from the need to control everything and make room for the unexpected. This faith doesn't mean the absence of doubt, but the conscious choice to keep moving forward, believing that the best is yet to come. In moments of uncertainty, like when you're waiting for an important answer or faced with a big decision, remembering God's sovereignty brings peace. It's like a subtle reminder that, no matter how chaotic things may seem around you, there's a higher plan in action. The spiritual energy this creates is what sustains your journey, even when you can't see the final destination. God has a perfect plan, and this truth brings comfort in times of difficulty. How many times have you gone through something challenging, only to realize later that it was necessary for your growth? Trusting in God's sovereignty is like planting a seed of positivity in barren soil, believing that, in due time, the harvest will come. And in doing so, you not only strengthen yourself but also inspire those around you with your unwavering faith. There's power in recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that's part of life's mystery. If everything were predictable, where would the magic be? When we trust in God's plan, we open ourselves to gratitude for the small surprises of everyday life. This trust doesn't exempt us from struggles, but it assures us that each one has a purpose. When you wake up and start your day with a prayer of trust, you feed your soul with the spiritual strength needed to face any challenge. The question is, how can we learn to fully rest in this greater plan? This is the next step of the journey, understanding that, amidst the storms, there's a faithful protector by our side, ready to guide us. God as a protector is one of the most comforting truths for those who live by faith. Imagine being in the middle of a storm, maybe a situation that makes you feel vulnerable, like a problem at work or a personal difficulty. Knowing that God is by your side, anchoring you, brings an indescribable peace. This feeling of protection goes beyond the physical. It wraps your spirit in a shield of spiritual energy that prevents life's storms from knocking you down. No matter the size of the challenge, the certainty that God is in control transforms your stance. You rise with a confidence that feels unshakable. It's like an invisible wall of protection that follows you wherever you go. In the chaotic traffic of the city or when facing an important decision, this divine protection guides you, keeping you steady and calm amid the chaos. The real secret is remembering that by focusing on God, you not only find refuge but also the clarity to face each situation. There are countless examples of this in everyday life. Do you remember that moment when something disastrous seemed to be looming but was unexpectedly resolved? Maybe a bill you didn't know how to pay or a tense relationship that suddenly calmed down. That's the reflection of divine protection. When we place our trust in Him, He takes care of the details that escape us. Every morning prayer, filled with gratitude and positivity, envelopes us in this spiritual barrier that shields us from discouragement and despair. Of course, this doesn't mean we're exempt from trials. On the contrary, difficulties come, but with God's protection, their impact is minimized. Life continues to test our faith, but it's in these moments that we see how He acts as a shield. Think of that friend who's always there to give advice or calm you during tough times. God is that eternal friend, always present, protecting us from life's most intense storms. And so, as we feel this divine protection, the question arises, how can we continue to walk with this unshakable confidence in our hearts? The answer lies in understanding the power of God's unconditional love, which is the next step in our journey. God's unconditional love is like a constant embrace that surrounds us, no matter who we are or what we do. At some point, we've all felt unworthy or imperfect, maybe after a mistake or a moment of weakness. But, unlike human love, divine love never wavers. It is constant, even when we fail. This kind of love makes us feel complete and protected, knowing that despite our imperfections, we are deeply loved. This love is a force that transforms lives. When you realize that you are loved unconditionally, something changes inside you. It generates a spiritual energy that renews your outlook on the world and on yourself. Imagine waking up and knowing, with absolute certainty, that no matter the day's challenges, this love is guiding you. It's a liberating feeling. In moments when we feel like we're not enough, this love reminds us that we are valuable in God's eyes, regardless of the circumstances. There's a practical example of this that manifests in the little things. When you make a mistake or feel discouraged, your first reaction might be guilt or sadness. But God's love pulls you back, reminding you that you can always start again. It's like that feeling of gratitude that comes out of nowhere, even on complicated days. It's the gentle touch of this unconditional love. A morning prayer that thanks for this love connects us directly to this force that sustains our spiritual journey. This love makes us realize that, despite the highs and lows, we are never alone. In moments of loneliness, you might think that no one understands what you're going through. However, God's unconditional love is there, constant, like a flame that never goes out. When we place our trust in this love, we begin to see situations differently, with more optimism, gratitude, and positivity. It renews us from the inside out, allowing us to face every challenge with greater ease. And it's this unconditional love that strengthens our faith through trials. After all, if we are so loved, how could we not believe that He is preparing us for something greater? The next step is to understand how this love gives us the strength to face each of these trials with courage and determination. Facing trials is an inevitable part of the journey, but with God, we find the strength we need to overcome them. When challenges arise, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, but remember that we are not alone in this battle. God is our safe harbor, our inexhaustible source of spiritual energy and protection. Think of a situation where the weight of the world seemed to be on your shoulders, but a simple prayer of surrender gave you the strength to continue. That's the power of trusting Him. True strength isn't about avoiding problems, but about facing them with courage, knowing that God guides you every step of the way. Picture yourself walking down a path full of obstacles. You may stumble, but God is by your side, ready to lift you up. Morning prayer is a perfect opportunity to ask for this strength and protection, to renew your spiritual energy and move forward with faith. This simple daily act of positivity can be the turning point in situations that once seemed insurmountable. When we face trials, we are also reminded of our own resilience. Every battle strengthens us, and this strength comes directly from our connection with God. Think of an athlete training for a marathon. Every mile run, every drop of sweat, is part of a larger process of preparation. So are we, facing each challenge with the certainty that, in the end, we will be stronger. And this strength reveals itself not just physically, but spiritually, through the trust and gratitude we cultivate. Difficult moments also draw us closer to God. It is during storms that we seek His comfort the most, and, surprisingly, it's when we find the most clarity and spiritual renewal. When you focus on God during moments of crisis, fear diminishes and faith grows. This teaches us that challenges are actually disguised opportunities where we can witness the power of divine protection in action. With this renewed strength, the question we ask ourselves is, how can we trust even more in God, surrendering our worries and fears to Him? The answer lies in a simple gesture, the act of fully surrendering and trusting in His will. Surrendering and fully trusting in God is one of the most liberating acts we can perform. Often, we try to control every detail of our lives, worrying about what might go wrong. But by trusting in God, we learn that there is greater peace in leaving in His hands what we cannot change. Think of the last time you felt overwhelmed, and upon surrendering your worries to God, you felt immediate relief. That's the power of trust. It brings spiritual renewal and a lightness that allows us to move forward. This surrender is a daily process. It's not enough to trust once, it must become a habit. Every morning, when you pray, you can ask God to carry your worries, knowing that He is in control. This is more than an act of faith, it's an act of gratitude. Full trust is like a flame that burns away anxieties and ignites a new light of positivity within us. By doing this, you open yourself to a spiritual energy that surrounds you, protecting you from the fears that try to steer you off course. Surrendering control to God doesn't mean passivity, but wisdom. It's understanding that, even when you don't see the complete path, God is tracing each step with precision. A practical example is when we face major decisions, whether about career, relationships, or health. Have you noticed how often the answers we seek come after a sincere prayer of surrender? That's the power of true abandonment to God, He acts even when we're not watching. When you trust, you live with less fear and more purpose. The fear of failure, of making mistakes, or of not being good enough begins to fade. And in place of fear, an unshakable confidence arises that, no matter what happens, God is in control. This allows you to live with more ease and joy, savoring each moment with gratitude. The daily act of surrendering your fears is like throwing away a heavy backpack you've been carrying unnecessarily. Now that we've learned to trust and surrender our fears to God, the need arises to direct this new confidence towards something greater. How can we align our lives with the divine purpose and move forward with clarity of direction? This is the next step in our faith journey. Seeking God's guidance and direction is like asking for your life's spiritual compass to be set on the right course. At some point, we all wonder what the correct path is, whether in our careers, relationships, or personal choices. When we ask the Holy Spirit to guide us, we're seeking more than quick answers, we're seeking clarity that aligns our lives with God's purpose. Imagine standing at a crossroads, with multiple options before you. God's guidance is the wind that blows in the right direction, even if at first it seems like an unexpected route. The path may not always be the most obvious, but when you trust in God's direction, the journey becomes lighter and more meaningful. This requires sensitivity to hear the Holy Spirit's voice, and that sensitivity comes from a daily practice of prayer and gratitude. It's like when you surrender to the silence of nature and suddenly begin to notice details that had gone unnoticed. Similarly, the practice of morning prayer opens your spiritual ears to recognize the signs God places along your path. Moreover, asking for guidance isn't just about waiting for an answer, but also being open to the opportunities God brings. Sometimes, the direction we seek comes through people, situations, or even unexpected challenges. A practical example of this might be a door closing at work, prompting you to consider a new career or a project you hadn't thought of before. That's the power of trusting in divine guidance. It leads us beyond what we imagined possible, revealing a path that, often, we didn't even know existed. When we align ourselves with God's purpose, we begin to walk with more confidence and clarity. Doubts diminish, and the gratitude for what we've already received allows us to see each new day as an opportunity to fulfill that purpose. This guidance doesn't exempt us from difficulties, but it ensures that we are on the right path. And the more we walk in this direction, the more we feel the spiritual energy renewing our minds and hearts. With this confidence in God's guidance, the question arises, how can we continue to follow this purpose, even amidst life's distractions? This is the final reflection that leads us to understand how we can apply everything we've learned so far in our daily journey. Life is full of challenges, and often we feel overwhelmed. But now you know there's a way to start the day with more purpose, attracting the positive energy you've been seeking. Morning prayer is not just a habit, it's a powerful practice that transforms how you face each obstacle. So, the question is, what are you waiting for to start? Why not take this step today and see how spirituality can change your life from the inside out? If you're already on this journey, how about intensifying your prayers and noticing even more blessings flowing your way? If you haven't started yet, maybe this is the perfect moment to bring more protection, gratitude, and spiritual renewal into your daily routine. True change begins with small actions, and now you have all the tools. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving more tips and guidance that will elevate your spirituality and help you live with more peace and purpose.